Okay, welcome. I'm Tim Scoggins, Chairman of the Shaftsbury Select Board, and I am calling this meeting of the Shaftsbury Select Board to order at 6:32 on January 20, 2020. First, let me check. Does any member of the board have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
No. Minutes, we have a couple of minutes to approve. We have minutes from January 6th. In attendance that night were Tim, Ken, Art, and Tony, so we can approve those. So I hear a motion to approve the minutes for January 6th as circulated.
So moved.
Moved by Tony.
Second.
Second by Art. Any additions, corrections, comments on the minutes? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? So the minutes for January 6th are approved 4-0-1. We also have minutes for our special meeting on January 13th where we did a budget review. We had Tim, Tony, Ken, Art, and Joe all there. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussions, additions, or corrections on the minutes for January 13th? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Those minutes are approved 5-0-0. Go ahead and sign these for Dave. Okay, looks like we have one warrant, check warrant number 19 in the amount of $50,315.08.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony,
Second.
second by Art. Items over $1,000 include $7,000 to Blue Cross Blue Shield, $2,500 to Bennington County Sheriff, $1,600 and $1,100 to GA Bow Fuels, $11,000 to KAS, and it says Fall 2019 Groundwater Monitoring, $2,500 to Co-File Technologies.
That's the restoration books. That money comes directly out of the restoration fund. It's to restore all books.
Oh, okay. $3,200 to Sullivan and Powers.
That's the last audit payment.
$1,000 VLCT casualty and property deductible.
That's to pay for somebody's hood.
That would be the hood of my car that got smashed by snow.
That's our deductible for our general liability.
Oh, wow, okay. $10,000 to William E. Daly, $2,500 to William E. Daly. Is that the...
That's mostly winter sand.
Okay. Was there did we use a lot of gravel in this last...
I wouldn't be able to tell you that until, oh yeah, sure. I would say probably the bills will come in $10,000-$12,000. Each one of these is expensive.
Yeah.
It all depends. That's a guess on my part because I don't have the bills.
He was quite a bit out of the stockpile down there.
Yeah, because we did have some that was prior purchase, but it still is going to be, it's still
Yeah.
money.
Okay. Any other comments, discussion on check warrant number 19? All in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So check warrant 19, $50,315.08 is approved 5-0-0. Are there any announcements?
Well, there's a winter festival in North Bennington. I know it's not Shaftsbury, but it's close enough, so. This Saturday is
This coming Saturday?
the plunge is at 11:30 at Lake Perrin, and then there's activities all over town.
Yep, that's always fun. I usually make it there. Good, thank you. I would remind people that we still have openings on the Planning Commission and the DRB. And so if you'd like to serve the town in that capacity, just let us know. You can give a letter of intent to apply to David Kiernan through email. Any public comments? Treasurer's report. Melanie Dexter, come on up.
Hello. Let's look at the cash flow first. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on actually. That reserve cash is just, I was letting the due forums kind of build up, and I wanted to get a better idea of what our real cash position was. So I transferred $292,000 from the reserve cash to the general fund, just to cover those checks that we've already written. You can see there's a lot of delinquent taxes coming in. It's going to start dropping off. I think that Mert has got the low-hanging fruit, and it's going to be fighting for every penny from now on. But that was a pretty good chunk that came in. And then go down a little bit. Okay, so there's the town appropriations. You see, you actually signed that warrant last time, but that's those checks went. I mean, that transfer went to the reserve funds. In this, so I transferred basically the same amount into and out of the reserve fund, but that's to keep things clean. So it's whatever it was, 292 from, and then 275 back. So that means that when you look at the cash position, it's much more indicative of what's really going on. Right below that.
Just to
oh, sure.
clarify, I was thrown a little bit. That's what we normally refer to as community appropriations.
No, they're the transfers to the voted transfers to the reserve funds from the
Reserve funds, yeah.
Reserve fund. Okay, I got you.
Sorry, I may have misspoken. Did I say community?
No, you said town appropriations, but I immediately thought community appropriations.
Okay,
so
I might actually have said community appropriations, but if I did, I misspoke. This is actually the voted transfer to reserve funds.
That the people approved.
Right.
Yes.
Voter approved transfers. Yeah.
Yeah, as part of the budget.
Yes.
Right, and you'll see more detail when we look at the reserve, because that right now you're just seeing it as a chunk, but you'll see it all lined up there. The thing right below that is the restoration fund. And we had to set up an entire new fund within the reserve funds. And this is a state mandate?
State mandate that a portion of all recording fees now has to go into a restoration fund
Yeah.
for the sole use of the co-file bill, as before, to keep our records intact and to upgrade them as we can.
So I had put this off until I couldn't put it off any longer because we just approved a check to pay for that. So we had to have the money set aside for that. So that's what that is. And you'll see that again when we see the other side of the reserve accounts. That's all I have to say about that. If you want to take a look at the reserve spreadsheet. Okay, so when you look down the credits, that's what all of those voter-approved transfers to reserves are
Okay.
in that column there. So $55,000 for a fire truck and et cetera. Equipment, $90,000. And then on the debit side, that's the money that was building up owed to the general fund. So it was money in and money out, but not all from the same place. At the very bottom, you'll see the new fund, which I called 350. So it's out of order, but that's where it lives. And you can see that that's the transfer of $6,030. That represents, is it 50% of her?
I'd have to check that.
I think it's a set percentage
It is.
as mandated by the state. I think it might be 50% of what she takes in for recording. So that's what that is.
And that's to be used to,
Only to be used for the restoration of documents that she has in the vault.
okay, yeah.
So I don't have anything else particular to say. I don't.
Dave, help my memory here, this 90,000 in class 3 road funds, that,
That's a bunch of reimbursements too.
Yeah.
We get-
okay,
we
that's
get
not
checks.
what we put in the budget.
No, that's basically what we got back from people.
Okay, so
Right.
that was probably 45,000 that we had in the budget and.
Yeah,
plus-
45 in the budget and the rest came in, yep.
Okay,
And that brings us back to just about zero with that fund, so, which is exactly where we want to be.
Yeah, that should be zero, if not a little in deficit. And if you go down to paving is going to be corrected by the line above it, culvert, because right now, the culvert, which is
Right at the
860, should, oh yeah, it's at the bottom. That shows a $19,000 deficit, which will be partially corrected by culvert and trees, because in some of the projects we did, there were so many different aspects that we have to do a journal adjustment, because some of that paving expense is really gravel, and it's also culverts, we put a lot of culverts in where we pave, so it just has to be adjusted. That's gonna come out, these are all gonna be zero. I figured we went over about $8,000, so we're about 1.8% of what we planned over to do all these things.
yeah, we did a lot on the roads
Yeah.
last
That's
year.
really close.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really
pretty
close.
close.
Well, it would probably be worth looking at the balance sheet for those as opposed to just the cash position, because there might be some other stuff going on with do froms and stuff, so, I can let you know
Yeah.
exactly where we are with those.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Looks fine.
That's good.
Okay, good,
Thank you.
thank you, Mike. Okay, roads report. Got a couple of bullets here, road conditions and the truck discussion. But I'll turn that over to you, Dave.
Yeah, well, the road conditions were, of course, went from complete mud to frozen to where they are today. We appreciate the understanding we got from most people that when the weather goes to 60 degrees after rain and stuff, there's very little we can do about it. They did put a lot of gravel down. I did get a lot of compliments on the work they did, trying to smooth out the rough areas and get material down so the roads are passable. But this situation is not a Shaftsbury situation. It is going on in every town from Wells on down. It's difficult to fight multiple mud seasons and rain and thaw and 60-degree temperatures, and then going immediately to this kind of cold. I'm sure there's some ruts out there, and again, other than trying to fill the ruts with stone, which immediately the stone just gets kicked right out of them anyway. It is a difficult situation to deal with. And we'll see what the next week of weather brings. I understand by the end of this week, there's more weather coming. And then, who knows, we have the February thaw. You know, it's so weather dependent, as everyone knows, and they get on the problems as quick as they start popping up. And we learned from this winter and just look for the worst spots from this winter and previous winters in areas that we know, and we'll book them out for repair during the summer next year, as many as we can afford to do. And that's about the best way we can go about it.
Yeah, I want to talk about this more, but I'm starting to wonder if, more when we get to the budget, but just on that subject of what the winter is doing to us now, what mud season did to us last year, I'm starting to wonder if we have enough in the Class 3 road fund. Because this last year, we got a lot of grants, so we kind of got lucky. We were in a good position to do some major work all over town after a horrendous mud season this year. I don't know if we're going to get so lucky on grants this year.
Yeah, the like last year or this year was kind of a combination of some held over from 19. So we wound up with 90,000, 94,000 in grants, and we had money to put in because we had combined a couple of years. So we spent, what was it, about $280,000 in repairs. We have hopefully grants over $300,000 for next year, but that's the bridge, that's paving. We should get a paving one this year. And we have a grant in aid in for $40,000 right now, but that's also going to a general permit project. If we got 40 to 60,000 a year in GIA or BVR grants, that would be pretty good, considering every town in the state wants them. And with the municipal road general permit, every town needs them to try and meet their permit standards. You know, we can basically do the same section we did for Shaftsbury Hollow every year without grants, by combining money from all the different funds, reserve funds. And that's roughly equivalent to 2.5 football fields. But that's, you know, that is picking the worst. And we're talking, you know, the hollow was dig out the base, basically starting the road all over again. That doesn't need to be done everywhere. But to do it like that, it's about $500,000 a mile.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we spent $100,000 in the hollow. I'm gonna argue when we get to the budget, we don't have to completely derail it now, but I'm gonna argue that we should have that much in class 3 to be prepared to do that. Because if we take it from culverts and trees, that means we're not doing culverts and trees that money is set aside for.
well, it's all kind of, well, it's kind of combined because we can't fix the road without putting the culverts in.
Yeah, yeah.
And the trees parts too, you know, almost anywhere we really want to do this correctly, trees are going to have to go, culverts are going to have to be replaced. And that's how we combined it to do the hollow.
Yeah. Let's go
Yeah,
ahead
yeah,
and
we'll get to
finish
that
your
with the
road
budget.
talk, and we'll get to the budget in a few minutes here.
So I guess the next thing would just be any discussion on the single axle truck.
Yeah,
Do you have that?
That's the scan.
that's this, okay, good.
The worksheet, I think.
About replacing the international?
Yeah, the old International, the red one. It's a 2009.
Yeah.
What I did was I went to Delury's and then I went to, and through him, we went to Viking and Serwac, who are body people who supply bodies for the towns and that sort of stuff. So I took the price of the small truck is what they call a CV, and it has a gross vehicle weight of 22,500. That's the maximum that you can put the truck and your load and all the equipment on it, okay? The Chevy that we just got is 19,000, so this is even heavier than the Chevy is, okay? But this is the heaviest of that small truck bodies. Cabin chassis, the body, an all-season body, which is the one that spits the sand out in front of the tires, so it isn't just a tailgate type of thing, and a plow. And then I took the weight of them, and so after you've got your cab, your body, and your plow, how much room do you have for sand? And so you work backwards, and the sand is 90 pounds per cubic foot, which is so much per yard. You've only got room for about 3 yards of sand in the small truck, and you can't go over the gross vehicle weight because it's not designed for anything more than that. Plus you have a 10-foot plow. So what you do is you buy this thing for the purpose of putting on sand and plowing the road. So what I did is I just divided how much sand you could carry by its price and how much a 10-foot or 11-foot swath that you plow, and so it costs you this amount, $42,000 per yard. That's how much you got invested. That isn't what a yard costs, but then it's going to cost you $12,000 for a 12-foot section of plow that's done. And then I did the same thing for the bigger truck. Cabin chassis, body, plow, and a wing, so you got extra 10 feet extra. And you can carry, as compared to 3 yards, you can carry almost 7 yards, or 6 yards, 5.8 yards in this. So your cost per yard is 27,000 compared to 42, and your cost per foot of plow is a lot less too, because you got a wing that gives you a 10 foot extra, which keeps the truck out of the ditch. We've tipped over several trucks because they get so close to the edge trying to plow. With the wing, you sit in the road and that sort of stuff. So that's
Yeah, well, it seems to me what, what you're saying here is that this small truck, which looks like it's maybe $30,000 less overall, is going to result in a lot less productivity because the guys are going to be turning around going back for sand
About a half.
twice as often as with the big truck.
And instead of 2 passes on a road, they may have to make 3 or 4 to plow it full width. So.
Okay.
I think bigger's better.
Yeah, and you're not, I mean, you're not talking about a huge amount of money. 130 versus 160. Okay,
Good job.
good, thanks, that's helpful. Any other thoughts on that?
That truck, I don't know where they said the 3 yards. Salt weighs 2,000 pounds a ton.
Yeah, we already have a salt truck. The Chevy is our salt truck. We
The
don't,
new one.
new one, we don't need another salt truck.
No, that's, I thought we were talking about that.
No, we need a sand truck.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not, my main thing is cost, and if you're gonna get a truck, I'd like to see how that new one we just got works out, number one. And then number two, I think any dump trucks we buy, single axle or tandem from now on, should have stainless steel bodies on them.
These were priced as stainless steel.
That's what we spec too.
It was-
Because
It was spec as stainless steel.
stainless steel costs you more money, but I bet you'll get another year or two out of them, but you'll pay for it.
See, I put SS underneath, it's a stainless steel.
All right, do we have consensus on buying a single axle instead of the small CV, or do we need to put it to a vote?
I've got consensus, I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
Ken, are you on board?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's whatever we can get for the best deal for the town. It's gonna last the longest and what the road fund was.
So if we get the smaller truck, we have to work it twice as hard. Right. So.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, Mike told me that new Chevy we just got, that he could do all the blacktop in one load,
yes.
where he couldn't before.
Excellent.
Okay, good, thanks, Art. All right, so we have consensus, we actually had already put that out to bid.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah.
We were debating it with the option of deciding whether or not to accept a bid. It looks like we're prepared to accept a bid if we get a good one.
Yeah. Those will be in on February 3rd, the next one. Because we need to order it if we're gonna have any hope of getting it by next week.
And that does include the stainless steel body?
Yeah.
Very good.
Spec
It's
stainless
been
steel.
spec'd.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Any other discussion on roads? All right, we're gonna move.
Tim,
Yeah,
is that culvert in the hollow due this year?
Probably gonna do that in 21.
21.
We'll probably do the upper, it's called structure 931, I think it is, which is a large culvert under the road. That really wide diameter one way up top. It's a very old project that has to be done. The fishing game people want it done, so.
Well,
But
I don't know where that is.
It's way up.
Is that a
towards the end.
Shaftsbury Hollow?
Yeah.
Is that the one we got the $47,000 grant for?
No.
No, that's a different, okay.
But the one, the 175,000 what Ken's talking about is the hollow hideaway, the bridge. That, we asked for a extension of our grant to the end of 21, which we have no reason not to think they're gonna get, because when we went to start putting the bid together, they changed the requirements. The A&R wants different things built around the bridge. So we have to kind of respec it, so seeing that the state's making us change it, they have to give us more time to do it. Because we've been applying for this grant for 4 years now, so it's not gonna be a big deal, it'll get extended. So that'll be in 21.
okay.
They didn't change the reline on that, that's just still a reline.
Maybe determined. I'll have to get all the details for you. I don't even have them all yet.
Yeah, but the last time when I heard of it, they were gonna just leave the existing structure there and just go inside it.
Yeah, I doubt the old structure's gonna come up completely. But I'm not gonna give you any details because I don't know them off the top of my head. This is a pretty in-depth thing they're talking about, so,
How's that, how ahead away?
yeah. I don't have the details, Ken.
Really?
I'm not gonna speculate about what it may or may not be.
Well, that's just the
Yeah,
first I
yeah.
heard of that. 'cause-
Yeah, no, the design has to be changed somewhat because the fishies aren't happy or something, I don't know. But A&R wants a bigger opening, and it has to have a different flow rate, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, there are lots
Yeah,
of.
that one's been creeping up in cost on us for a few years. We thought we were gonna get away with like 160 at one point.
Yeah, it's gonna push 200 plus, so.
Well, that was the original price anyway, wasn't it?
No,
For a total
we're
replacement?
gonna come in pretty good. Well, let's just see where it pans out now.
Yeah.
We'll have the paperwork soon.
Need more of that.
Okay, budget. If there are no objections, let's start where we almost got to with the, talk about what if we have another bad mud season. Dave put this together for me today, which is what we did in terms of major projects last year. And he was pointing out that not all of these can be counted as a response to mud season, but a lot of them can. And certainly the Shaftsbury Hollow, which was $90,000, was a response to mud season. It just became impassable. But some of these others are. And so, we had a lot of grant money coming in where we could use our Class 3 road fund for matching and really able to do $280,000 worth of road improvements, which we needed last year. My concern is that in the budget right now, after getting all these grants this year, we'll certainly apply for more, but if we don't get them, we could be looking at as little as, and it's big, we've been increasing it every year, but 55,000 in Class 3 road fund won't get us very far down this road. And the fact that we've already seen just winter, it's not even mud season yet, and we've seen Rollin Road get pretty messed up, and other roads in town, they've had to call the buses off the roads already. We're not even in mud season. We've always been careful with the budget, and as Dave will see in a minute here with his chart, shows that we're still below inflation over 5 years of budgets, but I'm thinking that $55,000 Class 3 road fund should be maybe $100,000 to put us in a position to, if we have to do one of these Shaftsbury Hollow things, I hope it's not that, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of sections of road that need road base in order to deal with really bad ruts. And as Dave said, we can, if it gets bad, we can pull from culvert and tree fund to do those things, and a lot of that's legitimate because a lot of these projects do involve culverts and trees. But the trees is largely budgeted based on a list of bad trees that the tree warden gave us a few years ago, and there are hundreds of bad trees that we're trying to get to as quick as we can, but there's only so much we can do there. And the culverts, we've got culverts all over town that need replacing, not just the new ones we're going to put in if we have a really bad drainage project. So that's kind of my thought on that. And that's not an intelligent number. It's just basically it's more. But $100,000 seems like something we can really do something with if we come out of mud season, with problems. If they're not bad problems, we do that, and we still have culverts and trees to deal with. If it gets really bad, we'll probably add culverts and trees to that. If we have to try to do, this kind of level of activity again.
Rough figuring, each penny of tax raise is about 40 to 50,000.
40,000, yeah.
40,000.
So we're at 55, to get to 100 would be another 45, basically a penny.
I'm reluctant to go another penny over the penny 1 point, what are we at, 1.2 or 3
Yeah,
cents?
1.2 or 3 cents with, yeah.
Which would be a total of 2. I know it's a lot of money, but I would be, my vote would be for a half a cent raise, which would be about 20 to 30, 25,000 or so more. I'm just scared of a 2 cent raise.
Yeah, the increase this year is a 1.91 cent raise before this.
1 point,
So 2 cents.
2
and we're
2 cents.
2 cents.
2 cents.
Talking about going to 3 cents.
3 cents, yeah. But that's just my opinion. But
I've been on the board since 2013, and that deal in Shaftsbury Hollow was the first and only one we've had to do like that since I've been on the board. You've got dirt roads in this town, I think we're doing a reasonable repair job. I mean, we're delegating and finding out where the bad spots are. We're fixing them with French drains, and we're putting the money into it where we have to, and we're keeping the budget where it is. It's a dirt road. They're never gonna be perfect. And everything that we fixed, I don't know of one spot that we fixed with fabric or drainage that's bothered again. And when you get on Social Security and people, we gotta just hold every dollar we can. The schools are killing us now. I don't wanna add to it. I wanna keep the roads as good as we can. I think we got a super crew. We got a good foreman that knows what he's doing. And I think we gotta stay with what we got.
I went out on Sunday and I didn't find a place that was impassable. There were some rough spots, but I think one of the worst ones was beyond, before you get to Murphy Hill, Chappello's, that whole flat in front of Chappello's.
Yeah.
That was
I thought
about,
that was fixed.
well,
I have to go back and see exactly where you're talking about to be sure.
that seemed to be the worst, but I
Yeah.
didn't find any spots where you couldn't get through, which has been the case in some years.
How
And
far below the quarter are?
pardon?
How far back from the quarter, going up the hill?
The whole flat.
The whole flat?
Where you go up to Mazzola's.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but anyways, and I've seen years when you don't have a mud season. If the weather warms up slowly, you won't have a mud season. You know, the frost comes out evenly and all that sort of stuff.
I'll say one thing, in the past 3 years that I've been on the board, of course, being on the outside looking in before, I never heard so much about Shaftsbury Hollow other than, 3 people, oh yeah, really, it's bad roads and what. But I've seen, it's really been a focal point here when it comes to road crew. Shaftsbury Hollow is like the favorite topic. I mean, it seems like we've got a problem there and we need to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's not fixable just because of what we're up against. Mud, snow, the environment.
Well, I don't think you can say it's not fixable. The place that we put $100,000 into that was impassable
It's perfect.
last year was pristine this time.
Well, then let's fix it.
Well, I think for the Hollow has a number of particular issues that we've been getting to, some false starts, I'll say, a few years back. But we're pretty much going to be running out of things to do there very quickly. After these bridges, Structure 931, another project we have coming up, I think the Hollow will be pretty much settled. The only other aspect to this is that we can do match, like the Grant and Aid or the Better Back Road project, that we will get, if we get 40, 80,000, that'd be a blessing. every year, because that's a lot of money for us to get every year. Only have a 20% match on that. So that's only 16,000 out of our class 3. So, I mean, that is part of, you can't budget it, but it is part of the possibility of us getting more money like that. We've got cobbling this together to fix this real problem, was kind of good, but it sucked up everything. I mean, that's why, basically, other than repairing the last of the mud season stuff and just grading roads and continuing ditching and putting some stone pillows, there won't be any real construction until July 1st. Because to do all this, we had to spend
All of our.
everything.
Yeah.
Every reserve fund is zero. And like I said before, we're probably gonna wind up, 1.8% over, it's $5,000. So we're probably gonna be over like $5,000 for the year. But out of 280,000 in work, that's pretty good, so. But still, I guess from our point of view, money's always gets things done, but it's what the market bears, I guess, which is your responsibility.
What would you like to see, Tim?
In terms of dollar amount?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to round it off at $100,000, which would raise it a penny. The other 2 points I would make is, we're talking about a penny on $100,000 worth of, or $200,000 house. We're talking about, I think, about $10 a year in taxes. Every time we do one of these projects, that's another place that we don't have to throw thousands of dollars worth of gravel on every mud season. So,
Okay.
if we don't have consensus, I'd ask that we put it to a vote. So I would make the motion that we increase the Class 3 road fund from $55,000 to $100,000.
Second.
Seconded by Tony. Any more discussion? If you want to change that amount, we can.
No, I'm just cautious, that's all. Let's try it. If we get backlash, we'll know we can't do it again.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm worried.
Yeah.
I think last week you talked about that, and I'm concerned that this is the new normal. This is the second year in a row, and it's continuing, and I think you're going to get slammed. I'm concerned about just heavy trucks like fire trucks and things like that getting in on those roads. God forbid we have a tragedy. At least we tried. I think the only thing you could do is we get slammed by the voters, but I think the reality is, particularly those people who live on those roads, they've been screaming, and we're trying desperately to fix them.
I think for once we've got everything's getting lined up. We got a good crew. We got a foreman that understands. He gets them out there. We aren't coming to work at 8 o'clock and finding the grader still sitting in the yard.
Yeah, no,
That sort of stuff, so. Okay.
Any other discussion?
We're good to try.
All in favor of raising the Class 3 road fund in the FY21 budget from $55,000 to $100,000, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so that vote carries 4-1-0. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Any other discussion on the budget? I think you had some. Do we need to talk about those nits with the water?
Well, we just changed a couple of things on the revenue side. It's really just to, no, I didn't like them, so we changed them. The water revenues, we're reflecting what we anticipated would be a heavy participation of the highway department and the water department, which isn't panning out at all. And we do have 2 good leads on replacing Jim, so we think it's going to be even less. One's very qualified, and so it's just not. I cut it in half. It may go less than that, but we thought it was close to 6,000, and like I said, it just doesn't look like we're going to come anywhere near that. The other one was we had government grants that were kinda high last year, but it's not like these grants. These grants all reimburse us for expenditures we've already done on the roads. So that 10,000, we were thinking more like the playground money we got directly from the state, that's just giving us $10,000. So we put that there as a holder, but you know, you don't get those every day. So if we get it, it's like a bonus, and we just bought equipment, and it's a one-off on each other. But it didn't really seem right to leave it in there as a revenue line. So we just got rid of that. It makes a minuscule change to the taxes overall, but I think we both thought it was more realistic, so. And that's the only change in revenues from what you've seen. So,
Okay. And no changes in expenditures?
No, we
Except
left
what
it.
we just voted?
except for what you just voted, everything's the same as it was.
Okay. So are we ready then to vote on a budget? That's the next thing you need from us, right, Dave?
Yes, we need a budget vote.
So,
Just,
the total that we have, and let me verify that it's,
It was 55,000.
yeah, I'm just looking at what the total amount, which has to jive with the meeting warning. So this says 120347. Okay, that doesn't match up with what I have here.
No,
so maybe I
because we vote for the community appropriations on ballot. So what you're doing on the warning is the floor vote.
don't- Yep, yep,
Yeah. It's confusing.
you're right.
So you add the 55 to this number here.
This number here is the, is the working number though,
It
right?
is the grand total including the community appropriations, but on the warning, you have to separate them. So yeah, this one's gonna go up
Right.
55,000.
So, we want to take this number and add 45,000 to it.
55.
45, we're at 55.
We're at
Oh,
55.
all right.
Yeah, we've
Sorry.
gone up 10,000 already
Sorry.
this year. So that number is 2,245,947.
I think you just added 55,000 to that.
Yeah, well, I did, golly. After thank you, Dave. I'm glad your eyes are good. Okay. So there it is, plus 45,000. And then this number here, 87.
Well, that stays the same, that's the community appropriation line. You have to go up above that to where the 45,000 goes in for. Yeah, that box is the community appropriations, so.
Yeah, so this number here, we will subtract from
Oh,
This
subtract from
number
that,
here.
yes, right,
to get the number that goes on the warning.
right.
Okay, we can do that in a second. But what we want to vote is on this budget, which has the total expenditures of this number right here.
Assuming all of community appropriations are approved.
Yes, yes. And this number will be different than the number on the warning by the amount of the community
Yes.
appropriations. But at this point, we're just agreeing that this is our budget for FY '21.
Okay.
Okay. So is there a motion to accept the budget for FY '21, $2,235,957, noting the increase of $45,000 to the Class 3 road fund?
So moved.
Moved by Tony, second by Art. Any more discussion on the FY '21 budget? All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No,
Abstaining? So the FY '21 budget is approved by a vote of 410. Okay, while I've got this open, I will take and calculate the number Dave needs, which is that, minus community appropriations. 2,148,247. So that is the number, 148, 247. Two, 148, 247. Okay. All right.
I guess I'd like to put in a plug for keeping the town meeting as the place where we vote the budget, because if we advertise this and let everybody know what the proposed increase is, they can show up Monday night and talk to us, and we can drop it back down. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to, so. I'm sure, but I'm sure it'll probably hit the banner, what our tax rate's gonna be in a day or two.
Just as soon as I see the video.
Yep,
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's what it's all about, and.
Yeah, I remember that meeting a couple of meetings back when the only thing we did was increase the garbage rate.
They doubled it.
Doubled it.
So, seriously, I welcome comments from the citizens, okay?
Mhm. Yep. Okay, if there's nothing else on the budget, and I don't think there is since we just approved it, we'll go to the town meeting warning. And the last thing that really has to get decided on that is the time, because the school board, the new unified school board is meeting at 6:45 in Bennington. And there's just not a convenient way to do our meeting before or after that. And really the suggestions were we keep it at 7:30 at night, which has people waiting around with no school board meeting until 7:30, or we do it at 6:30, hoping that we'll get people to show up just because they don't have to wait so late. And I'm open on the subject. What do people think?
My vote would be for 6:30.
Sure.
Does that work for everybody?
6:30.
Okay. So we will make that 6:30. And so the things that are happening on the ballot are the fact that we're going to collect taxes on November 6th, 2020, that the budget will be the amount we just talked about, with the increase in the Class 3 road funds, less the amount of community appropriations. That gets voted on the next day. Just in case somebody asks you, Dave and I felt like we would just take out that bit that kind of got stuck in the budget where we vote on the lister salary and the select board stipend and the constables. Those are just 3 items in the budget out of a budget of 200 or 300 lines. It's not all of the town officials, it's just some of them. It never really made any sense that we would have a separate action item on the town floor vote for those, so we just decided they would be included in the budget. There's no reason really to call those out. The other one that sometimes it got asked about last year, but this is the way we did it last year, was another remnant was that thing that says the select board shall be authorized to borrow money in lieu of taxes. That is written into state statute now, so it's not necessary for us to get that approval from the voters each time.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the ballot articles that we'll be looking at, shall the town of Shaftsbury enter into a communication union district, a CUD, to be known as the Southern Vermont Communication Union Districts, under provisions of 30 VSA Chapter 82. We've talked about that. We're up to 9 towns. We're hoping to get Pownell on Thursday, so that would make it 10 towns. In Bennington, our task force is seriously thinking that this should be an entire southern Vermont CUD, which is kind of our hope in the beginning. There are still other efforts that are probing their own thing, but that's certainly the way we're thinking. But right now, it's 9, maybe 10 towns in Bennington County. They're to create a CUD with the idea of getting grants and then also loans, getting a feasibility study and a business plan put together, and then trying to attract an ISP to come and serve internet to the people in this region that don't have it. And this is the best option we have right now. It's what came out of the broadband bill that was just passed in the last legislature. The important thing to realize about this is that by state statute, the CUD cannot tax, and it cannot use tax money to pay for communications infrastructure. And even I learned that when we were talking about, we ended up not applying for that first round of grants, but we said we would match that grant. We can't even do that. It turns out that was not something we're able to do. We absolutely cannot spend our own money for that. So it won't cost you any tax money. There's really no downside to it if we fail to make this work. There's no downside to it. We'll dissolve the CUD and go on about our business of trying to figure out another way to get internet to people, but that's our best hope right now. The next one is, shall the town of Shaftsbury adopt all budget articles by Australian ballot? That's the one Art was just talking about. That was brought up by Ken for the last few months as something we ought to consider, so we're putting it to the voters. We don't have consensus on the board, so it's really what the town wants. But the question is, should we vote the budget that we just talked about by the people who show up at town meeting or by paper ballot, the way the school does it? There are cases for and against, as Art just said. By doing it at town meeting, the town has the people at town meeting have a chance to change the budget. If you vote on it by paper ballot, you only vote up or down. You can't influence the total. On the other side, town meeting participation has been steadily declining, and by voting it by Australian ballot, you get a larger percentage of the people contributing to the process in that way. And also, that's really how most of the towns in Vermont do it now.
Hope for a real bad mud season and you'll have a room full of people.
Yep, you're right. And then the third one, shall the town of Shaftsbury create a cemetery capital improvement reserve fund and transfer all monies in the cemetery reserve fund to the cemetery capital improvement reserve fund. This is a
Correction.
correction to, go ahead.
The cemetery reserve fund was started maybe 10 years ago. The process was flawed and it wasn't properly done. We can't really use the money. We can't really do anything with it. It was designed originally to replace the fence over here on Main Street. So just in talking to lawyers, the best way to do this is just to have the town vote for the creation of the capital improvement reserve fund and the transfer of money from the flawed fund into the new fund. And it's as simple as that. It has nothing to do with perpetual funds or anything. This is money just like our gravel or culvert fund, but when I went to use it, we couldn't find the proper things, and that's, we just want to correct. It's just a simple correction. And as soon as we get it, we can start with the project in the cemeteries.
So,
And then,
excuse me, Tim.
Yep.
So you wouldn't be able to use it this summer until after the 1st of July, is that
No,
right?
as soon as this voted, the
Oh,
fund
really?
starts and the
Okay, so
money's there.
this has nothing to do with,
No, it has nothing to do with the budget. We've been putting money into this fund. This fund was here when I got here.
Okay,
just been putting money in, nobody really asked for it, and then we asked for it and found that
Could
maybe,
use it.
okay, well,
Yeah.
it's good to know.
Yeah. so we can use it, starting immediately as long as it's approved by the voters.
Okay,
And then the community appropriations, the various charities and other organizations, the Arlington Rescue, the Bennington Rescue, the Bennington Library, the North Bennington Library, and various others that have asked to be put on the ballot. Most of these are ones that we've seen before. Did we have?
Every single one is one we had before. The one new group couldn't get it together for this one, they'll be back next year. The only big increase up here is the McCullough Library, went up $4,000. Everyone else is virtually the same. Arlington Rescue went up $1,000. Now, you mentioned Bennington Rescue with their budget item, not a cap.
Right, thank you. I forgot. Yeah, that was one of the big things we did, was move that into the budget. Thank you.
The rest of them have stayed virtually the same, minimal increases.
Okay.
And most of them have to do with grant funding. It's our portion of the grant funding in order
Oh, yeah.
to qualify
Oh,
for
okay.
grants. And they're based on most of them, because the research I did years ago, most of them are based on participation of Shaftsbury residents.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. If that is acceptable, then I need a motion to approve the town meeting warning with the start time at 6 p.m.
6:30.
6:30 p.m. With the budget as described and the ballot articles.
so moved.
Second?
Moved by Tony, second by Joe. Any more discussion? All in favor of approving the town warning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. So the town warning is approved by a vote of 5-0-0. Oops. Close the agenda. All right, internet CUD, that was covered on the ballot. Other business. Art wanted us to look into the VLCT resolution on retail cannabis market that was approved in Arlington and by about 20 other towns. Art?
it's just, I think it's something we have to face if the state of Vermont is working on legislation right now to set up retail stores and that sort of stuff, and they're going to want every town's opinion on whether they, first of all, do they want a retail store? Can they grow in the town? What about the taxes? So on and so forth. So I think we've got to face it sometime.
Well, I think if they're gonna sell marijuana or anything like that, it should be done, it should be state controlled like we sell liquor through a state liquor store. It should probably be held the same, don't you think?
Well, these are all,
Just hypotheticals.
do you have it on Dropbox?
You know, I don't have a copy
Well,
of
we
it.
we can talk about it in another meeting, but it's just,
Okay.
Gotta read it.
it's,
See if I can pull it up while you're, go ahead and talk.
it really isn't that definitive. There's nothing,
I think one of the big things they had in it was the sharing of tax revenue amongst all communities in the state compared to just the revenues to the towns.
the
that
town
had
that
it.
has, that's right. So,
Yeah, that's right. The big thing that VLCT is pushing, and they're addressing, the bill as it's currently exists, I believe, is S54, and there's nothing in it to give towns any say or any share of the revenue. And so what they're asking is that the town only supports legislation legalizing a tax and regulated cannabis market that adequately addresses all the aforementioned local considerations, and it's talking about effects on just the, the general effects that a cannabis market would have on the town. That the town supports a local cannabis tax of 5%, with 70% of the revenues derived from the local cannabis tax retained by the host community of a retail establishment, and 30% pooled and redistributed to municipalities that do not host retail establishments. Their point there being, even if it's, in the next town over, it's going to affect you, so some of the revenue should be kept local for nearby towns, but the host town should be able to get 70% of a 5% tax. And that the town city calls upon the state administration and legislatures to provide communities adequate time and clarity in law for local officials and community leaders to discuss the local implications of such a market, and to update, clarify, and establish local regulations and policies accordingly.
I'm concerned about the safety of it in driving. Is there adequate test if somebody's high?
I
No,
think they have
that saliva thing is gonna be challenged. It's an intrusive thing that's based on the speculation of the officer making the stop. And having been in law enforcement for 25 years, I see nothing but problems like that.
Yeah, there is no roadside test for cannabis.
Yeah.
We wish there was, but there isn't.
Yeah, I know it. I've had truck drivers that I had to let go just because they smoked at one time and it showed up in their blood 30 days later.
Yeah,
And then all of a
it
sudden,
lingers.
now we're making it legal, so it's kind of it bothers me. We had such a strict standard before, and now it seems to be going out the window. Yep. That really isn't, although it does address it up further up, it talks about something about law enforcement.
Whereas 2019-2020 VLCT municipal policy calls for any legislation legalizing commercial cannabis to address the impacts on municipalities, school populations, first responders, municipal regulations, and budgets. Yeah, it's interesting. I would support this resolution because I think it would be great to get revenue from a retail cannabis market. I was looking into a little bit into online research, and there's a lot of studies out right now that are looking at what's been going on, particularly in Colorado, because it's been happening the longest. And the research that I'm able to find is not finding bad effects from retail cannabis markets. In fact, just the opposite. And one of the most interesting ones to me was one I found on the Cato Institute website, which is a conservative think tank. And they were citing research from a group called Real Estate Economics. And their hypothesis was whatever, social goodness or badness may happen as a result of retail cannabis kind of gets lumped into property values, instead of trying to pull apart how much more you're spending in law enforcement and how much you're spending on or not spending on drug addiction or arresting people and all that. That if you just look at what it does to real estate markets, that kind of is an overall indication of how the community is responding to this. And what the result of this study was is that retail cannabis increases property values. And that the closer you are to the store, the higher the property values.
That's because the guy was that bad.
And they're speculating maybe there are good jobs in these stores and people want to live close to work. They didn't really have an explanation for that. But that was what they found.
I guess I would have pitied that stuff.
But it wasn't clear whether we had to put this to the townspeople, or this was just a selectman's.
Well, I believe this is a selectmen's thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would suggest we all take this, look it over, and plan on voting it up or down at the next meeting.
Well, the thing I wanted to add to this, as far as the people out there that do smoke cannabis, and I feel that it's great that they legalized it in Vermont in the sense that you can grow your own, so you're not buying something from an unknown source that could be tainted, which has happened with fentanyl and things like that. So I think it's just for everybody's own protection. It is good that they can keep it local and keep it controlled as far as, knowing where it came from, as far as local growers. But yeah, or even to grow your own. That's what I'm getting at, to be safe.
Mm-hmm. Any more comments on that? Okay. I was just kind of spewing the other day at Dave about our performance with Casella Waste at the transfer station. When I was there, I had shown up with a SUV full of cardboard to throw away, to recycle, and ended up throwing it in the trash bin because the recycle bin was full. And talking to Shelley, she says that kind of thing happens fairly regularly lately, that recycle bins don't get emptied and we end up throwing our trash into the trash bin, which it concerns me because we're paying by the ton, and we're also paying a healthy management fee on top of that, which I would think that would be part of what would help pay for getting an empty cardboard bin in there when we need one.
Who do you talk to? Do you call up and?
Yeah, I called. I got that part corrected. It's not the first time I've called on it. There's a bit of things have fallen off the track a little bit since this merger began. At one point I couldn't get bills, which was nice, but I couldn't get bills for the services. There are issues involved in this. I brought it up to the alliance that we have, that maybe we should be thinking about a district to deal with monopoly, because we have nowhere else to go. We do pay an awful lot in management fees. Part of that management fee offsets the fact that we pay nothing for recyclables, which is different than most other places. But we're facing a contract with Casella in a year and a half, and TAM is up. And we do need to be in a position to really negotiate strongly with this. And I think it'd be better if it was more a countywide thing. But if it has to be us by ourselves, there's things like this that just aren't getting done. Greg spent quite a bit after I called him going around picking up all the stuff that had blown out of the container, all the way down into the bottom where we have our scrap wood. So, this is all their responsibility. We have no responsibility inside that area other than selling stickers. So there's just some difficulty there keeping this organized.
So our contract was with TAM, so that contract got sold to Casella.
Yeah, it just becomes Casella's responsibility.
So that's,
We can reopen it, but it's up in a year and a half, like I said.
yeah.
Right now, there are some aspects to it, and I understand there's rates changing with other towns. Sunderland's in the process of renegotiating their contract with Casella, so I'm looking to see what comes up with things, yeah. And then the entire structure of how we operate. Because again, Casella operates their own transfer stations. I'm not aware, maybe they do somewhere else, but I'm not aware of a hybrid like what we have. So there's a lot of things to be looked at coming up for the next round of this.
My understanding is that Trevor is still pretty much in charge of this. Has anybody talked to him?
I have not spoken directly to Trevor. When I call the office, I wind up in Williston sometimes and
Really?
Rutland, and I usually just email Mary Beth, and because she's still there too, and just have her get on people to get things changed over there. But the contract, the next contract step, it'll be interesting to see.
What can we do through the Solid Waste Alliance? Because we're all Casella customers, aren't we?
Well, now we all are, yeah, but everybody has separate contracts right now. And the alliance is just to set up the parameters and everything, but there's a thing called a district, where you would actually have a district manager who would operate for everybody. It's just something that all the towns have to look at together, and I'm just thinking it's a good way to look at how do we negotiate a uniform rate for all 35,000 people in the county. Instead of 900 in Sunderland negotiating this way, we're negotiating that way, Bennington's doing it this way, and we only have one person to work with. We only have Casella. There's no one, unless someone's moving into the county, there's no one of size to deal with, especially for what we need.
So we actually got two problems. We've got one that's not being handled right now, and then there's the contract coming up. So
Yeah.
what about the problem of it?
Well, right now, this was all corrected.
It is?
Actually, before
Okay.
Tim called me, I'd already been on the phone with him,
Okay,
and it's corrected, but it's something we shouldn't have to keep on top of them for,
Okay.
but I guess we're gonna have to be more
I have
vigilant
I have
about it.
Trevor's cell number. Would be okay
Yeah,
if
I think I
just-
do too, yeah.
Okay, all right. I think
Yeah, yeah.
it's only respectful we call and talk to
Yeah.
him first and tell him what our problems
Yeah.
are, okay?
Okay.
I'll do that. I'll get back to you.
Okay, if there's nothing else on solid waste, we have to decide once again whether we're gonna put road weight limits
Yeah.
on for mud season.
Every year I have to bring this up. We have to register any highway and bridge weight restrictions that we're gonna put on any of our town roads for the winter. Every year I get told no, so I'm just required to bring it up. If the board wants to set any, we can do that. If not, we'll just do what I do every year.
We don't have any bridges or culverts or anything
No.
that's in question.
No, we have no restrictions on our roads.
Right, but I mean, there's nothing that's questionable.
No, no, this isn't about safety. This is just, it basically is a mud season rule. Do you wanna keep
Yeah.
certain vehicles off? And we haven't done it before, but
Yeah.
every year I get it and I need to ask.
Do you need a motion for that, or do we just need a motion if we're gonna do something?
Consensus?
Yeah, consensus, if you're not gonna do it, that's fine.
Yeah. Looks like we have consensus not to impose
Okay.
weight restrictions.
We'll move right on to the next thing, which is certificate of highway mileage. This just comes out every year. It has to be signed by the board, voted on, approved by the board. No mileage or anything has changed from last year, so it's just approving the same mileage.
All right, I need a motion that confirms for the state that we have, or a motion to sign the certificate of highway mileage stating we have 0 miles of class 1, 19.99 miles of class 2, 50.44 miles of class 3, and 15.849 miles of state highway.
So moved.
Motion by Tony,
All right, and second.
second by Joe. Any discussion? I heard 2. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining? So the certificate of highway mileage is approved by a vote of 500.
Then the last thing I would bring up here, which I don't have on here because I forgot to mention, to put it on at the beginning of the meeting, was our need of sheds of varieties. The swap shed, a new shed for Shelley, and we need a storage shed over at the firehouse for our electioneering equipment. What I want approval from the board is up to $20,000 from the D.W. Hawkins Fund to construct these buildings. Each one of these, one's a 10 by 20 swap shed, the other one will be roughly 8 by 10, and the other one will be 8 by 10 also, essentially. The more expensive one would be Shelley's shed, which of course will have windows, be wired. It's just more things to it. I have preliminary designs and estimates. They'll come in no more than $20,000. And I can bring proposals to the next meeting, get something out real quick, and get proposals back, and we can get on with it if the board approves the funding. The only funding we have for it right now is in Hawkins, which has a balance of $128,062 in it right now. And as you remember, the Hawkins fund is for the discretionary use of the select board. The upside of this is, if you remember back in the original planning for the garage and everything, they wanted $20,000 for Shelley shed. So for less than that, we're gonna get a swap shed, Shelley shed, and another shed. So,
Shelley, she shed.
yeah. Yeah. So, yeah,
Well, yeah, good job finding a bargain on sheds.
yeah, we have they'll all be custom built, which turns out to be a lot cheaper than,
And prefab.
yeah. Yeah, the prefab one, well, there's two parts of prefab. First, the cheap ones, the great, the cheap, they fall apart, and we have to put one out here, and two at the transfer station that'll start coming apart and will really be, and Shelley is in need of something with a little substance to it. But you get these, they last for 25 years or more, and you go down to someone's parking lot where they have them displayed, and they don't last that much longer.
Okay.
You can go to other people, well, I won't mention names, but
CBC used to make them.
no, yeah. But you go to other places and, you can pay twice this much for some of these. You get a 10 by 20 from some and they want 15,000 for it. So these are actually pretty good estimates, but we'll put it out and see what we can get.
Okay.
Do you need a motion down?
If the board is agreeable to using the Hawkins funds, we can just take a vote when I have the proposal.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, without objection.
Yeah.
Proceed.
And then just the other thing I'll mention is I do have projections for replacing all the church windows in this building. So I'm going to start looking for money. Because we'll need money from outside sources, historical preservation and other places. We've got some, and we need approval from historical preservation too. But right now, the windows in here would be the biggest drain to energy in this building. And you can't, what we have is good, but eventually it's gonna wear out. And I actually have a pretty good price on them. To make them look exactly like these is a little over 70,000 each. So clearly that's not the one we're picking. But you can do it for basically $10,000–14,000 each. But that requires me finding lots of grants. So I'm just want the board to know that it's another improvement we're looking at here, but when I find $40,000–50,000, I'll be back to you about it.
Isn't this a church?
Excuse me?
Isn't this a church?
No, it's a municipal hall.
Oh, okay.
But it's partially historical, although it doesn't appear in the registry.
Wrong place. You gotta find it.
Well, $10,000 to $14,000 for per window, which I assume is a modern window that just has some.
Yeah, it's a modern double hung
Some
window, the entire length of this with the top part each. It's really not a bad price. I mean, it's a lot, but it's really not a bad price. The munions, whatever you call them, are not like this. That's the driving cost. If you remember, like 6 years ago, I looked for a painter for this. I mean, it was over 70,000 just to paint these, which means like every 15 years we'd be spending $70,000 painting these things. So, it's just time. They've been here a long time. Most of them are beginning to rot away. So it's just something I'm going to start planning for. Like I said, there are historical preservation grants. I'm sure we can get 20,000 or so from them, and we'll start moving along. That'll be down the road, and we'll definitely know about that later on.
Maybe we could sell these old ones.
It's possible.
That's
serious.
everything, right?
No, people have
People
interest in
want
this stuff. It just really doesn't function here, or it's something we're going to need to replace. someone who has the time, the money to set these up and restore them is one thing, but, they'd be difficult to work with, to say the least.
Yeah, yeah, good, let's work on that.
Okay.
Any other business?
I think I'd like to talk about the church up in Center Shaftsbury. We actually asked the Historical Society to come in and tell us what, the rumor is going around that it's for sale. We asked them to come in, and they said it's not officially for sale, but we asked them to come in and talk to us about it, and they didn't show up. I'm a little bit concerned. I think the townspeople should know something about what's going on. I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, we just mailed them their community appropriations check. If we'd held on to that, we might have had some leverage to get them in here.
We can't hold on to this.
We'd be impeached.
We did, David,
Quid pro quo.
Dave, you did find the deed apparently that,
Well, in the registry for the, making a national landmark, historical landmark, it was deeded to the Historical Society in 1968. So it is apparently their
Yes.
building.
so it is theirs to do with as they would like. It's just, as a courtesy, we were hoping they would come in and explain what the plans are, because a lot of people in town are concerned as that is a bit of a landmark.
Mhm. The second oldest Baptist congregation in the state of Vermont.
Second, just on
Yeah, the
street.
first one in Pennington.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Reviewing action items, Art's gonna call Trevor about the Casella issue of picking up the full recycle containers. And we're gonna have the cannabis resolution on our next meeting, so we all have homework to study that. Is there anything else we promised we were gonna do?
You can just stop by and sign this with Marlene.
Oh, yeah, on the
The summer
reserve
for
fund
the
thing,
fund-
yeah.
fund.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So,
Moved by Tony,
Second.
second by Joe, all in favor? Aye. We stand adjourned.